Okay, good. Now you're
Oh,
woohoo! How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Did I see on your story is your son not feeling well today? Or was that another day?
Yeah, no, that's today. Yeah, I have a 3-year-old who, I mean, let me tell you what, he likes to pick up everything. So he's
I
got a runny
know.
nose, a cold, all of those pieces, but we're doing good. He's up there hanging out with grandma for a little bit while we do this live today.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad. I was like, if it comes up, I totally get it. Like, or if he pops in, my 4-year-old, she's the same way.
Hmm.
Everything, she's had everything, doesn't think to wash her hands, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm excited we're connecting today, and I'm really excited about the topic because for anyone watching live or watching the replay, Ashley and I followed Ashley for a while since I started my business, like a lurker, but you posted on Facebook probably in December, January, I think sometime frame, about this topic, and you were so passionate about it, thought this was such a good topic to share and talk about because it does happen a lot behind the scenes for people and
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. And it took me a while to connect with Ashley just because of the baby and, taking a step back. So I'm excited. Ashley is going to talk to us about email marketing because she is such an expert in email marketing, but why you shouldn't use it as a qualifier in your business.
Oh
So
my gosh, yeah.
Ashley, I will let you introduce yourself to everyone and kind of give us a background of, how you started your business and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm super incredibly excited to be here. Yeah, so my name is Ashley DeLuca. I am an email communication strategist, and specifically what I focus on is helping companies use the conversational email marketing approach to be able to really amplify relationships and sales using email marketing specifically as their primary channel. And so I actually started this journey now, gosh, like 6 years ago. 7 almost, going through the
Mhm.
process of essentially creating websites for people off of Craigslist. I, was really big into web design ever since I was about 14 years old. I self-taught myself from library books how to code websites, design them, all of that really good fun stuff. And then moving forward, what ended up happening is I ended up getting into a relationship, and I was like, man, like, I'm very much so like the planning and the long-term kind of person. And what ended up happening is I ended up leaving my corporate job to be able to have my kiddo, my son. And from there, like, I just have blossomed and grown into web design. It wasn't until I realized I wasn't as passionate about web design as what I thought. I liked creating my own websites, but not really for other people. That I discovered email marketing because everyone was asking me about implementing email marketing forms. And so as I went through and was creating these websites for people and everything, I was like, you know what? Like, it's time. Like, let's just dive fully into email marketing. And I've been doing this like forever now, it feels like, but after hundreds of emails later, we're still doing it. We're still super passionate about it. And I've just created my own method of doing it.
Right. I think for as long as I've followed you, which
Hmm.
probably been a year or two now, you've done email marketing.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know the website piece. So that's really fun about the navigation through your business and changing and the growth that you've had because you've been featured in a lot of different publications and you've written your own book, right? You have you have a book, right?
Yeah,
Or
so we're actually in the process of writing a book right now.
okay,
Yeah, I went through the process of launching the original like funding campaign for it last summer. Ended up
right.
going through a lot of life changes. It wasn't in a really good place to write a book about email marketing, but we're in the process of picking it back up to be able to get rolling.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. That's like a
Yeah.
whole subject within and of itself. I feel like writing a book and getting that published. Are you self-publishing or not to take us down a rabbit hole, or are you
Oh
working with?
no, you are good. I'm actually publishing with a publisher.
Okay. I feel like that's a hot topic right now as well. People are like writing books or writing something and how to publish them or self-publish is such a hot topic as well.
Yeah.
So maybe we can have another conversation about that when you're closer to publishing your book, but the email marketing piece specifically, because I will get us down a rabbit hole, um, was why people shouldn't use email, like list qualifiers or your email list as a qualifier. What is your stance behind that? Please share with us your experience. And since you do email marketing, why is that your thought process? Sorry, that's a
Yeah.
lot, but it all ties in together, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. So let me give a little bit of backstory, because this will provide a little bit of context for people to really understand, like, okay, what are you even talking about?
Right,
So
right.
essentially, so I have, as I mentioned, I've been in business for quite a few years now. Definitely like still in the rookie, but still somebody who has like been in the trenches, has done the things and working on building my way up. And one of the things that I do quite a bit of is summit speaking, podcast speaking, guest speaking. I've spoken on stage, like done all those pieces. And as I have continued to grow my business, to grow my visibility, and just show up and serve, that's like my number one thing is I just want to show up and serve and like provide value and like give out all the good vibes into the world. There's been a couple opportunities that I have had come across where like I will get on a call, like I'm following their process to be able to be part of their collaboration or their thing. And what ended up happening is one specifically. So I'll just choose one that happened to me specifically. I hopped on a call with a lady and she was like, oh my gosh, I would love to have you part of my summit. Like we're going to be doing this, this, and this. You'd be amazing. We can talk about email. You'll be on day 3. It'll be da 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 da, like all the way down through this entire process. And I'm like enrolled. I'm like, cool, let's go. Like, let's do the things. And it wasn't until we got to the end of the call and she's like, okay, so you have a list of 5,000. And so what you're going to do. And I'm like, I'm sorry, wait, what? I was like, hold on, wait a second. And I was like, I have to correct you. Like, I don't have a list of 5,000 people. I go through the process of regularly cleaning my list. I ensure that the people who are on my list are people who actually want to be there. And for me, like, I am not into collecting people. Like, I don't go through the process of just like collecting people. Like, my goal is to have like actual relationships with people that are in part of my world. And she just
Right.
looked at me and was like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I guess we can't do the summit now. And I was like, okay, great. So you took you took 20 minutes of my calendar to talk through this whole entire process to get to this one point that you didn't list at the beginning of the application process that you required for me to be able to be part of the summit.
Right.
And I've had a couple of those experiences. And a lot of times when people have talked to me about it, you know, because at one point I was like, okay, explain to me why. Like, why is 5,000 the magical number to you for someone to be part of your summit? And they're
Yeah.
like, well, it just makes it fair for those who have similar audiences. And I was like, okay, so now we're looking at it as a way of just the number of emails. Like, that's what you're looking at. You're not looking at the number of actual people on the list. Like, I wasn't asked what my open rate was, which is starting to become more of like a touchy subject because of all of the technology things happening with that. But I was like, you didn't ask for my open rate. You didn't ask for my like click rate. You also didn't ask how I obtain my subscribers. Like, there's so many questions underneath of that creates your list health. And so what
Yep.
ends up happening is like I can get like, I mean, and I'm not endorsing this, but I'm just saying like I could easily go and like pay for 5,000 emails to be on my list, take a screenshot of my ConvertKit account and be like, I have 5,000 subscribers. But that's not
Yep.
in integrity. That's not in alignment for me. And I highly like do not recommend doing that. Like, it will hurt
No.
your deliverability and like all of that. But like, that's the thought process that I see behind it. And it's like, I understand if I'm like, okay, I probably may not be in the same room or summit as like Jenna Kutcher, for an example, or Amy Porterfield, or think of like any like big name person. Like, and I get that. Like, I totally understand. But as I've like shared more about this, like I've actually attracted more aligned opportunities that don't even like that don't look at my follower count, that don't look at those pieces, and actually look at my like in community in itself and the value and the amazing souls behind it. And that's what really aligns for me.
There's so many things I want to like pick out of that because it's so good because I feel like a lot of people, me included, I waited for a while to even feel comfortable to put myself out there for summit or, you know, I've done
Mm-hmm.
podcast opportunities, but I feel like summits are different because it's more live
Yeah.
usually, and there's more that goes into it. So, and I have been so afraid because I don't have like a large list to put myself out there for those kind of opportunities, because that has been a question of, you need X amount before you can do this, but
Yeah.
you know, I have like a really good open rate. Like you said, there's so much that goes into it with the email marketing of
Mm-hmm.
how did you get these subscribers? Are they opening? Are they like what's your open rate? Because there is a lot of tech piece. Like people think it's just you write an email and you have an opt-in and that's it. There's so much more that goes into it. And I love that that's your approach because I know from your marketing specifically, you actually also focus on the metrics of the email marketing and the tech behind it. It's not just writing copy for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So within my world, like I look at all three pieces. I look at the strategy, like behind it, the intention of the emails, the journey, like what are we really
Mhm.
sharing with our people? Yeah, the copy piece is a huge part. That's actually the medium of the thing. But then also too within the implementation, it's not just like I'm gonna plug it in and let it roll. It's very much so about the deliverability. What happens next, thinking about the full picture and then going all the way back around again.
Right, and there's a lot of little nuances of what's going to affect your deliverability, like
Mm-hmm.
what the contents of the email, the graphics, subject line pieces, what kind of emails are you working with or delivering to? Because I know people, just from my own experiences with clients, they might have more B2B. So, someone who has a Gmail for business you're more likely to hit their inbox than someone if you're going like B2C who has like a regular Gmail account that has the the social and like those other inboxes that you don't want to land into
Mm-hmm.
um, for promos kind of thing. So your audience is a huge factor in that as well. But can you kind of elaborate going back to the qualifying piece is how you've attracted these aligned opportunities for yourself and maybe some tips on how to refute that for anyone who's in a similar position of I don't, I have this message I want to share. I want to put what I'm doing out in the world, but I feel stuck with not having a big enough list.
Yeah, totally. So I think the number one thing is I originally went through the process of essentially saying yes to everything. When I
Right.
was like just first starting out, I was like, okay, cool, like let's do it. I was like, you want to talk about this? Like, let's go and talk about it. Like, I very much so was just I just was always a yes. And going into like this different phase where now like the either the requirements are a little bit more stricter, people are setting better boundaries, which I'm totally here for. Like I'm always here for boundaries. I think the number one thing is like you need to figure out first and foremost what you want and what that looks like.
Right.
You getting clear is going to help navigate a lot of those waters. And then
Mhm.
also along with that as well too, like I have in the past when I was like, okay, cool, like I want to get my business out there, like I will make a Facebook post and say, hey, I am looking for some connections or introductions to do a live video with somebody, to do a podcast episode, whatever that may be. And I'll actually post about it and be like, I want to talk about this, like let's do the things, and then like providing them with the context of what I'm looking for, when I can do that. And so the easiest thing to do is to get clear, because then that allows for everything else to drop off, and then you can easily
Yeah.
be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense for me. um
Yeah.
the secondary thing is like after I got clear, I was then able to go through the process of looking at, okay, cool, well, what is it that is keeping me from getting to that point? There
Mhm.
were collaborations that just happened organically, like my collaboration with ConvertKit. I wasn't doing anything different. I just would always talk about ConvertKit because like I personally use it and I love it. And then the same thing with another email platform that just recently reached out to me as well. Like they reached out to me, I was like, okay, cool, great, that's awesome. And so I would say the biggest thing is really just setting yourself up for what it is that you're looking for. So let me give you another example.
Yeah.
When it comes to like with ConvertKit, for an example, like I went through the process of starting to share a lot about companies that I really, really enjoy. So like Routine, I talk a lot about Soul CBD because those are products that I absolutely love, and it was able to
Yeah.
then provide an example of how I would share other companies, and what that would look like. Now, that's very much so like brand collaboration,
Yeah.
but within like your summits and your podcasts and things like that, honestly, the biggest thing that people have told me is they're just like, so I mean, like, this is what people told me, but like they're so impressed with how many other ones that I've been on. They appreciate the quality, they love the content that I put out, that it allowed for them to be able to see, oh my gosh, yes, you'd be a great fit for X, Y, and Z, for my show, for my summit, for my thing. And so I think the biggest thing is like just getting clear, so that way you know what you're looking for, putting yourself out there within those boundaries to then be able to attract those other opportunities that you're looking to be able to use and do.
I think you also brought up a good other piece of this is you've been on a lot of summit or you've been asked to collaborate in a lot of different ways. So for people who are maybe at the beginning point of this, how are you still talking about the same things that you started talking about when you first started collaborating? Like I know people have like their signature talks or their signature points. What are some of those that you have now? And does it differ from when you first started? Like how was the process of tweaking, you know, those messages that you're sharing with people in these opportunities? I know some of them, they come to you and they ask like ConvertKit, and the other, they probably have something more specific in mind. But for
Yeah.
summits, collaborations like that, where they, you kind of have more of a say of this is what I talk about. How does that process look for you of tweaking your, I guess, message?
Yeah. So if you were to look in my Google Drive, you would probably see quite a few different slide decks. You would see quite a few variations of podcast decks, thingies, like all of it. Because there have definitely been a lot of evolution, and like I have just completely evolved since the beginning. Especially when we think about just like in my email marketing journey alone, the things that I used to talk about within email marketing, I talk about them a little bit different. There's a lot more clarity, it's a lot more defined, it's a lot more straightforward, as opposed to before it was very much so like the message was there, but it just wasn't as clear or defined, or like when I first started, I had no idea I was going to create the conversational email marketing method. Like I had no idea. And so,
Right.
for me, I do currently have, and I've always had, kind of the main 3 bullet points of like, these are always questions you can ask me and I will have a response for. And so it kind of gives me a good idea and boundaries of like, okay, here's what my specialty is. So for summits or for podcasts that are just like, come on and talk about anything you want, I have those in place. But I'm constantly tweaking them. I'm constantly improving them as I, discover new topics that I'm really passionate about, or if there's a better way for me to define something or word something to attract my ideal clients to that interview, then that's what I'm looking to improve upon.
I love it. Those are such good tips because I feel like people are just afraid to start,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to start somewhere to get like I look back at my drive too and I'm like, oh, that topic, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have like done this or this, but you never would get to the point you are now if you hadn't, tried to tweak it, you put something together and you're going to just build upon it. And like you said, the subjects that you talk
Mm-hmm.
about are going to expand as you expand as a business owner or, a thought leader. Because I know some people aren't always business owners doing this and following along that
Yeah.
just put their message out there or they have like a life-changing experience that they want to talk about. So with that, I had a question and then I just lost it because of this train of thought. Um, oh my gosh, I hate when that happens. I had like such a good because when you were saying like those points, um, with that, what would you say is your favorite topic to teach with these collaborations? Sorry, I'm like tripping up over my words because I like lost that train of thought. What is your favorite topic that you're talking about? That you built into your messaging because I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is definitely the conversational email marketing. It's definitely more of what I'm leaning into.
Yeah.
For the most part, I get a lot of requests for the starting point of like, okay, you may have a list, but you don't know what you're doing with it. Sometimes there is, other pieces that kind of go along with that in terms of what platform, how do you set up a welcome sequence, all of that. But I think like,
Mm-hmm.
the most important, I'm going to say the most important, but like the most fulfilling, is generally speaking kind of in the middle between being able to map out that first sequence for people,
Yeah.
even creating your first welcome sequence. That when I go through the process of teaching, okay, here's exactly how I would do it, like outline by outline by outline. Most people are just like completely mind blown and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so good because it simplifies all of the ambiguity. It simplifies all of those pieces that they're like, do I need this or do I need that? Like it simplifies the entire workflow for them, to be able to just write based off of their message and actually get it out there into the world.
So when they work with you, are they, I also did remember my other question, but I want to ask this one first because it
Yeah.
follows. Um, when you work with someone, are you helping them tweak that messaging? If they can't, if they're stumbling over their words, or they're like, this is kind of what I mean, but I don't know how to say it in a conversational way, kind of like you mentioned that it should be an email, like it shouldn't sound so marketing. You want your emails to your list to sound like to a friend almost.
Yeah, so that's actually what I did on my strategy session on Monday with a client. We went through and I basically audited all of like her new welcome and sales sequence she wrote,
Right.
and basically took out all of the pieces that didn't really align, that weren't conversational in regards with how she speaks and how she talks.
Yeah.
Because that's like the biggest disconnect that I see is that we will write our emails and they sound completely different than how we actually talk. And I'm like, people want to work with you and like they work with you because of how you show up and how you speak and how you talk and all the things. Um,
Oh, that's so
and
good.
yeah, and so yes, definitely 100%.
Awesome. I love, and then to get that tone, and this kind of goes back with the other question, is do people ask you that, and you might not have an answer. Do people ask you that to help them with the brand piece? Because you've done some brand collaborations. I know email lists are great to nurture for those collaborations, not just what we see on social media and the reels, like those kind of paid partnerships. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a strategy for that with your clients to help them intertwine their email marketing and maybe some brand collaborations?
Not necessarily. Most of my clients who currently have brand collaborations, they usually do it for the most part just within like actual social. Um,
Right.
yeah, not really. I mean, that's something that I can
Okay.
definitely like help with, but within that, it's not something that I'm currently doing with any of my clients.
I didn't know if that was like a big topic or a big thing, because you had mentioned doing these brand collaborations. So you're promoting usually if some people, since some have the list requirement. I didn't know if maybe if any brand collaborations you had come across also use the list. It's more of, I guess, followers then in that case, or has that not been a point of conversation with those kind of collaborations?
Um, I mean, from my own personal experience, it's been mainly just social. But
Yeah.
I have seen it where it does go into the email channel as well too. It just depends on the requirements of the collaboration.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. And I guess one tip to give to the audience, if you're watching live, if you're watching the replay, if you're stuck in that position of, I still feel like I need to grow my email list. Do you have one solid tip of I for those who want to grow their email list so they can maybe meet those minimums in an ethical, authentic way?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and this is definitely not meant to bypass the importance of growing your list whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
and so
agree.
yeah, and so I would say the biggest thing that I'm seeing working right now, is very niche down opt-ins. So if you're going to do an opt-in, you're going to do a small paid offer. It needs to be niche down, and it doesn't have to be necessarily niche down to a specific audience, but a specific problem that you're solving for somebody. There are 800 different Instagram hashtag guides out there. What makes yours different, right? Whether
Yes.
it's like, well, I can show you how you can easily implement this in like 5 minutes or less, or, you know, you can take this and you'll curate and it'll be this thing. Like, you have to be very specific with how you're going to paint the picture of how that will help them. And that's really going to make sure, one, you're getting the best leads who are
Yeah.
actually interested in what it is. And then two, there's not any kind of like unknown or gray area in regards to, well, what is this actually? Will this actually help me or my business? And
Yes.
so, yeah, I think being specific, like that's really going to rule over kind of the more general opt-ins.
I love that. I love just this whole subject. We could talk about this forever. Like email marketing, opt-in, communicating with your audience. Um, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know we are going to, I don't know if we're almost up for time, but what is one key takeaway you would love for everyone watching live or on the replay to walk away with from, you know, everything we've talked about, your experiences, um, collaboration, email marketing wise, anything? What would you want their one takeaway to be for today?
Yeah, so I would say you are not the numbers in your business. Regardless if it's revenue, if it's email list, subscriber count, follower count, you are not those numbers.
Right.
It's really easy to look at that and try to value where you're at in your journey based off of how much revenue you make, how much, you know, and all of those. I mean, like, it's literally in any number within business that we try to attach a story or a thing to. You're not any of that whatsoever. And
Oh
that's
my
something
gosh,
that
yeah.
I've had to learn over the past couple of years, is that it really does not make a difference whatsoever, at all.
I would like to build on that from what Ashley said, that you are not the numbers, but those are just data points for you. Because I do this with a lot of my clients as well, is like we look at key metrics within our business, within their business in various areas of like marketing, client retention, things like that, financials. Those are data points for you to make a decision. They are not meant to be you. Those are things that you can use to make better decisions and give you a guide of what's working strategy wise and what maybe needs tweaked. That does not make you a good or bad leader. It's just the information to help you to like
Exactly.
make a decision. It's not meant to it should not emotionally charge you. Like you said, it's not you. You are you who you are. I think that's a great point.
Yeah,
Especially for anyone at any stage of business, beginning, multi six figures, anything like that. That you are not the numbers, and you are not you are your business, but you know, there's more to that. I
exactly.
love that.
You
I
nailed
love
it.
that. Thanks. I'm so glad you joined in with me today. I don't want to keep you from your son. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we sign off? I love this topic. I could talk about it all day. For any of my followers, if you're interested in growing your list, getting more in depth with email marketing, follow Ashley. She has a ton of great tips. Her link in her bio has a plenty of resources. But is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off?
Yeah, well, thank you so incredibly much for having me. It was literally just such a blast. And if there's anything that has you stumped when it comes to email marketing, just know my DMs are always open to you. I would love to connect with you, learn more about you, and see if I can serve you.
Ashley is amazing, everyone. She is so kind. She like is like we have mentioned before, authentic, open. She will definitely help you or at least guide you in the right direction. So thank you so much for joining me today, Ashley. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and for sharing all these tips and insight and info and just shedding light on topics like this that are sometimes behind the scenes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So good. Thank you so much for having me and for all your kind words. I really, really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you, Ashley.
Alrighty. Talk to you guys later.
Bye, guys.